Hey guys, this is a recap of the third game for the World Chess Championship between Ding Liren and Gukesh. And in this game, it was quite the battle. So let's just get to the moves. So Gukesh is white, and he starts with d4. We get knight f6, the Indian defense. This is the best move by test and by engines. Knight f3. So this is just a more simple approach. Not playing c4 right away. More safe. But he plays c4 anyway. So just basically transposes. We get e6. So if knight c3 is a move here, I wonder if this can transpose into like a Nimzo. It's pretty similar to a Nimzo, but it's a little different because you've got knight f3 in there. But Gukesh trades, so I guess you would say this is like an exchange variation of the queen's pawn game. As I guess it's called the symmetrical variation. And so we just get some simple developing moves. We get g6 from Ding. And h3, what's funny about h3 is Ding, like in the press conference, said that he was already surprised by this move. So he is basically out of prep. I mean, if what he's saying is true. So basically h3, and he's already out of prep. So everything after h3 is pretty much just Ding figuring it out on his own, and he plays really well for a while. He plays f5 or bishop f5, queen b3, queen b6, and the queens are on a standoff. No one wants to trade because it opens up the rook, but Gukesh plays g4, and so Ding isn't forced to, but Ding doesn't want to move his bishop back because he already moved it right, so he's basically losing a tempo if he moves it back. So he goes for this line where he takes and goes bishop c2 to go for this pawn. However, I think in hindsight, he like when he was playing, he probably thought this was a mistake, as I think eventually right around here he thought his position was kind of bad. Probably here is when he thought his position was bad, because he said, like in the press conference, he said that he thought his position was bad for a while, even before e4. Let's just go through the moves. I'm kind of spoiling it a bit, but Ding plays rook g8, and actually, like, Ding was playing pretty accurate for a while, and Gukesh plays g5, which is a little inaccurate, but it's still a good practical move. Right? It just allows knight h5, although like the knight really doesn't have any jumping in moves after bishop h2, but the knight will reroute to g7 into these squares. So Ding plays rook h8, and as we see, we get f3. Now, the whole idea behind f3 is to play e4, and I think basically at this point, Ding thought his position was losing. Perhaps because he didn't like the multiple lines where like the bishop goes to f5 and e4. He didn't like them, so he plays knight g7 right first to buy some time, attack the bishop. So bishop g3, and then he again he didn't like the lines with bishop f5, so he went for rook h5, and this is a losing mistake because he's going to lose the bishop. But I guess he always thought it was trapped, or not necessarily trapped, because in this line I could show it. He showed it in the press conference. Should be 6, and I think he showed takes, bishop takes, and then I think it was like. Oh wait, I think I'm mixing things up. I think this is right. I can't remember when he goes rook c1 here, I think he was saying. Or maybe takes then rook c1, right? And then I think he was worried about, I'm not sure where line he was talking about. I know he was talking about trades, but I think rook c1 was there earlier. I wonder what the line was. It must have been something else. Rook c1 here now, I think, is what he looked at. And then I think he might have looked at like a rook h5, perhaps. Here, and then like he didn't like this line where the rook gets here, basically. And so that's what it was almost this position. I'm not quite sure if it's exactly this one, but basically he didn't like the rook getting to the 7th rank. So let's go back to the game. So again, he played rook h5, and the thing is this bishop's going to get trapped with rook c1. So he trades, and this is a little inaccurate as well. He could have saved the game basically if he played perfectly with knight e6, and I think the main reason is because like he like in the lines he'll usually be like down like 2 pawns, but if he plays knight e6, like they're pretty similar, but trading basically just kind of improves Gukesh's like structure, like because this pawn in f3 is a little bit of a weakness. But anyway, this pawn is kind of like attacked too, like twice, or like the square. So I mean, I don't know. It was a bit like, it was really complicated, this position. So he just trades, and then he plays knight e6. Which I guess, like, you know, like at first glance you're like, well, I should trade first because this pawn's gonna hang. But as you'll see in like the further lines, I think this knight would have to leave the square anyway. So like this pawn's not necessarily hanging, because if you play here first, like takes, and then there's takes. So and also like the bishop escapes. Yeah, that's another thing, is like there isn't really like winning the pawn, because I mean you at least save the bishop. But again, like I obviously don't know like the best lines. All right. So we get trades. We get knight e6. We get rook c1. We get knight takes d4, and then we get bishop f2, hitting the knight, basically trying to remove the defender of the bishop, because the bishop is again trapped. This pawn's defended, that pawn's defended, this square's defended, or covered by the bishop. Bishop can't go anywhere. So we get bishop g7, and then this is the move that Ding said he missed after like in like the rook h5 line. Like he played this because he thought it was fine, like this position right here, and it is fine if knight e2 isn't played, but it was, and he said that this was the move that he missed, and basically there's just nothing he can do to save the bishop. So he goes for this line, because again, like on the next move you're gonna take, so you gotta move the knight or take. So he's like, might as well take a pawn, right? Rook takes c2, knight takes c2. Now, better would have been to take here with the bishop, perhaps, and keep the bishop pair. But either way, it's losing. And he did a pretty good job again of defending, but I should have been mentioning the time. Because he was out of prep all the way since h3, as you can see, he spent 3 minutes there, 2 minutes, spent a whole 15 minutes on queen takes, and then obviously this is an easy follow-up because that's what he was calculating. h5 was kind of what he was calculating as well. Seems like 2 minutes. Another 2 minutes. And 2 minutes is completely fine. But like he spent over 30 minutes on 97. And again, he thought his position was already losing pretty much probably after like 97. But he still had it in the balance, even though he thought his position was really bad. And I think that's the problem, is he thought his position was pretty much lost. So when you think that, you play like other moves, which are usually not that good. And again, like it was just the main error of like he saw bishop e7. Oh yeah, it was bishop e7 was the line he actually saw. And then I think he said rook c1, bishop here, e4 here, and then takes, and then rook here. Yeah. So that was the line he saw. And again, like it's still complicated, but his position was better there. So let's go back to the game. Let's see. Takes, and he plays king takes. Rook takes would have been a mistake because there's a fork with knight here, and then you can see there's multiple threats. The only way you can really stop the fork is with this, but then I think it's, yeah, rook takes. So black gets 3 pawns for the piece. So it's not winning at this point if black defends well enough. And then let's keep going. So he takes with the king, right, to avoid the fork, because the difference is now you could play king e3, you could play knight d4, and that's what Gukesh plays. And there's still a little bit of counterplay with Ding. He pins the knight to the king, so the king moves out of the way. If here there was a blunder, I think it's rook takes, right? Yeah. And it's in the line of the bishop, so then there's just a fork like this. You're going to take the rook, I believe, right? Yeah. And this position, again, should be losing, but But yeah, I guess it's complicated. Like, I don't... bishop takes a7. Crazy engine line. Or kind of, some of it's forcing though, just like from human play as well. Takes b2. Oh, I see. Huh. What if you play something like king b3? Defend the pawn. And it's just kind of interesting because like this bishop's pinned, and this bishop. Oh, I guess you just move the bishop out. I'm being dumb. Just move the bishop, and then you can move the other one as well. All right. Anyway, let's just keep going. So that's losing as well. Even though it's a blunder, it's actually still losing. But Gukesh played extremely accurate to like basically put away the game as soon as possible, because again, Ding is low on time, and he's trying to save the position by using his time and finding like good like counter moves, like trying to find counterplay in the position. But Gukesh was just extremely accurate, and not always playing like the top move, but I mean, just still playing like good, really good moves. b3. So let me just say the moves again. So let's see. So 94 pins, unpins. Rook h2 is a good attempt. I think here there was like ideas of like a5, b5, and like a4. But yeah, it's still losing. So he tries rook h2, which is still a good attempt. Although like knight f3 would have been pretty much lights out. Because you have to trade the knights. Or I think you're just losing a pawn. Okay, yeah. You're losing a pawn there. And you're still trading with white. So, but Gukesh just plays pretty solid and plays bishop g2, a6, which is a fine move. There's not really much ding to do. All you can do is really just wait. Rook d7 was one of the best moves, but he thought a long time on all these moves. He just doesn't have any time. He can't be even thinking for 3 minutes or 2 minutes on these moves. He can only think like a minute per move, like from here, like only a minute per move. But he's just spending too much time, and then Gukesh finds a way to trade some pieces. He played rook c1, rook d1, bishop e3. Or not e3, g3, rook h5. Ding's just pretty much waiting around, attacks the pawn, and then Gukesh finally is consolidating, threatening the trade with knight f3. And he had other times to play knight f3, but he just wanted to make sure it wasn't losing. So takes. He did have rook takes here, but I think there were some tactics. So he plays bishop d4. He's trying to get counterplay. I think here it was better for Ding to trade the rooks and then go knight here, and then I think is it e4 here? Yeah, if, like Gukesh say goes, or not e4, e5, he can go here and then reroute his knight to here, and it would have been like still a game. And the thing is, he needed to get to, I think, move 40 for time control, but he just trades and then plays bishop d4, trying to go for like, I mean, this bishop has a lot of activity, right? I guess, you know, it's hitting that rook, or not there. It's a really good bishop, but it's only temporary. So just rook h1, trading rooks. And Ding thought for a whole minute when he needs to move pretty much like less than every 10 seconds, or around move 35, so like 10 seconds every move pretty much. But he takes the pawn, which allows bishop h3, hitting the rook. And yeah, his position's just collapsing because, like, say here, I think there's bishop h4, right? Yeah. And the rook needs to stay defending this bishop, so it's just all collapsing. It's like engine line just gives rook sack. So instead of that, he plays f5, and he misses bishop f4. Just wins on the spot with a tactic. He plays rook h5, and the winning move on the spot is this one. If takes, you take this rook, or is there something better? No, that's the winning move. And then if like takes, you have this check with takes, and you're up a full rook. And so after rook h5, he just flags. I believe he played it right before he flagged, or he didn't get the move off. But yeah, that was the game. Ding played extremely well for being out of prep, but I I think it's kind of odd that he blundered the... But he didn't really blunder e4, I guess. In the sense that, like he already thought his position was bad, which is interesting. I mean, he did blunder because he thought this was like better than, like, say, bishop f5 or bishop e7, because he saw bishop e7 instead of rook h5. But I guess, you know, he what was the word they use? He refuted it, or he refused it. I think he said he refused it because of the rook getting to this 7th rank. So, I mean, but it's definitely better than getting your bishop trapped. But yeah, that was the game. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.